News coming down from the IRS. Other good news, Margie, Jennifer already got their payment. So we're encouraged to see some of those responses coming into 11 Alive Facebook. But don't worry if yours hasn't landed yet. Our financial expert, Andrew Poulos, says this is all going to roll out in phases and stages like we saw before, with those direct deposits landing first and continuing that process throughout this week, and then those paper checks and debit payments to follow.
So we finally have new information on stimulus, everybody. One-time $1,500 inflation relief checks are going to be deposited for some people in just a total of 4 days. It's because Chuck Schumer has released new information on the current state of negotiations, and so more action is being taken by the lawmakers. Several Democrats have already urged Congress to approve a new bill that can make as much as $3,600 per person. It's going to help so many people out, and people will be receiving stimulus payments. For instance, Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff, who represents California, sent a letter to Nancy Pelosi asking for more stimulus payments to be sent out. He said, "The funds are part of the state's middle-class tax refund program. It offers Californians relief from rising prices due to high inflation. Recipients receive the funds through direct deposit and state-issued debit cards, which will be dispersed by the end of the month. All payments are expected to be dispersed by the end of January. In order to qualify, applicants must have resided in California for at least 6 months during the tax year, or have filed their taxes by October 15th and have earned less than $250,000 a year for individual filers, or less than $250,000 a year for couples. The amount that filers receive is based on how much they earn yearly and how much dependents they have. Married filers with an income of $150,000 or less and have dependents will get $1,000. On the lower end, filers who are single, have no dependents, and make between $125,000 and $250,000 will receive $200 flat. State residents that are listed as dependents are not eligible for the refunds, and the middle-class tax refund signed by the governor is meant to aid families struggling with making rent and buying groceries, or helping with smaller businesses." In addition, everybody, Gavin Newsom told reporters, "We know it's expensive right now, and California is putting money back into your pockets. We are sending out refunds worth over $1,000 to help families pay for everything from groceries to gas. Other states and cities are trying different programs to help people struggling with high prices. And residents in South Carolina are able to get a rebate of up to $800 as long as they have filed their 2021 tax returns. The amount of rebate is based on a person's tax liability, which is the amount of money left over after subtracting credits from the income tax that the filer may owe. According to the South Carolina Department of Revenue, for those who have tax liabilities that are less than $800, the rebates will be equal to their tax liability, while filers with a tax liability equal to or over $800 will receive exactly $800. The Department of Revenue has capped the highest amount that people can receive from this rebate at $800 per state. People who have filed their tax return by October 17 will receive this rebate by the end of the year. Anybody who has already filed their taxes will also receive a rebate by direct deposit in their bank. So those who file their returns after October 17th have until February 15th to receive their returns and get the stimulus payments they deserve. Folks, it's good because President Biden can finally give people the much-needed stimulus money that everyone's been asking for. An unexpected surge in revenue fuels the plan, with $1 billion paying off a federal loan, everybody. It's distributed to Illinois and numerous other states when the crisis shut down businesses and sent unemployment to a 40-year high. That loan's retirement carried a $20 million interest payment due next fall, and a package brokered among business and labor, Democrats and Republicans also puts an additional $450 million into the Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund. It will act as an interest-free loan, which employers who pay taxes to keep the fund operating will pay back over a 10-year period. Folks, all I could say is that President Biden must do more for the stimulus checks.
Today it is my honor, my bittersweet honor, to join with congressional leaders to unveil the official portrait of Speaker Pelosi, the proud daughter of Baltimore, the distinguished representative from California, the first woman to serve as Speaker of the House. For a century and a half, the lobby next to the House chamber has been adorned with portraits of speakers past. Sam Rayburn, Tip O'Neill, John Boehner, of course. And today, the portraits of these men will be forever joined by the likeness of another speaker, a Madam Speaker. It is a most fitting tribute because few leaders in American history have been as effective, as driven, as successful as Speaker Pelosi. I'm known for having a lot of energy, but I have never, ever, ever met anyone with more energy and drive than Nancy Pelosi. She is always, always working. And Nancy, from one leader to another, one of the things I will forever admire is how you always kept your caucus united. For over 20 years, she kept saying the same thing: our unity is our strength. She kept saying it and saying it and saying it, and the results speak for themselves. We cannot talk about the Affordable Care Act without mentioning Nancy Pelosi. We cannot talk about the American Rescue Plan without mentioning Nancy Pelosi. We cannot talk about the infrastructure law, the Violence Against Women Act, the Lilly Ledbetter Act, repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and so much more without mentioning Nancy D'Alessandro Pelosi. She did it all. And yet, for all her successes, I learned that Speaker Pelosi is at her best during the hardest moments, none harder than January 6th. In the face of insurrection, there was Nancy with us in the safe room, unshaken, calm, determined to secure the building and keep democracy going. As hard as January 6th was, working with Speaker Pelosi to keep.
The president urged the Senate to move forward and pass the measure and get it to his desk so he can sign it. Biden said the measure not only lowers the cost of prescription healthcare for families, but claimed it would also reduce the deficit and fight inflation, as the nation grapples with the highest inflation rates in more than 40 years. Biden has thanked the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer for his determined effort to produce the strongest possible bill to bring down costs and reduce the deficit in climate crisis while boosting our energy security. Biden stated, now Congress must act quickly and get legislation to my desk to deliver for many Americans. Manchin indicated he would support a reconciliation bill in August, then includes provision to lower prescription prices and a 2-year extension of subsidies for the Affordable Care Act. According to a Democrat briefed on the conversations, Manchin's demands means Democrats will probably only be able to produce a far smaller bill that erases the hopes of many in the party to use it to fund clean energy incentives that could begin to help curb global warming. There's a new update on Social Security benefits. A huge cost of an increase is going to pass soon, and this means millions of Americans are going to receive a bigger benefit boost. Lawmakers are pushing for a $200 increase, and now, according to several new estimates, retirees could see a double-digit percentage increase in their Social Security benefits next year as inflation runs hot. Based on new inflation data, through June, the cost of living for Social Security benefits could be an increase of 10.5% next year, boosting the average retiree benefit by $175 every month. The nonprofit committee responsible for the budget puts that increase at 11.4% if inflation keeps trucking along as it currently does. And even if inflation cools, the committee responsible for the budget estimates a 9% COLA, while the Senior Citizens League predicts